It was just a matter of time before I was found out. The apple may not have fallen far from the tree, but I was certainly no lawyer. A name? I had to give her a name, or the jig was up, something she could hang her hat on. It's Vice, Vice, baby. It's Vice, Vice, baby.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, everybody, wherever you are in this beautiful, beautiful earth. Oh, how are ya? How is everyone? Let's see. Swan Lake Lady, good morning. David, how are ya? Mary Jane, good to see ya. And Jules, I don't think I've seen you before. Hit the like, I appreciate it. Soul, how long do you sleep? 3 hours a night? Pretty much. Yep. It's like 3 hours and 5, 10-ish minutes. Sweetfly, good morning. He's awake. Yep, I'm awake. He's alive. He's alive. Mary Jane, was it a long night chauffeuring? I wasn't chauffeuring. Were you chauffeuring? Hello, Lady Autumn Sky. Uh, I'm always lurking. Was a big fan of your dad's. Love your channel. Oh, appreciate it. Well, welcome in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is still pretty chilly here in good old Utah. Let's see what the weather is. Move you guys up here so I can do this. You were chauffeuring? I was not chauffeuring. God. It is 46 degrees Fahrenheit or 8 degrees Celsius. Still a little pretty chilly. Hose are frozen. Um, Jules, you know what? You're right. She might be referred to my hat. I just woke up not too long ago. So, it's interesting. It is very interesting. I'm just switching some stuff here and there so I can get some stuff looking how I want it to look. We decided chauffeur hat. No, it's not a chauffeur hat. It's a Polish sailor's hat. Okay. To start off the day, we have some beautiful tea. It is the Dragon's Treasures, one and only coconut Chong. It has oolong tea, coconut flavoring, blue corn flour, and it is a total of 25 grams. So, gonna steep for 3 to 5 minutes. It has been about 8 minutes now. I'm a horrible person. How long did it take to after Freedom Units when you came to USA? Not too long. Not too long. Yeah. I never looked at the hat that way, but I guess I can see it. I just know it's a Polish shipments hat. Yes, Lady on the Sky, it is. It is not a chauffeur hat. It's a Polish captain hat. Mm, nice. Oh yeah, I'm drinking my Wonder Woman tea. What? Wonder Woman cup? There you go. That's the word. Well, I hope everyone had a good weekend. I sure did, obviously, because I overslept yesterday. I can't understand measurements in general. It's okay. It's okay. We'll help you through it, Mary Jane. How about that? We'll help you. I'm just gonna stop talking, dude. This morning talking thing, it's not working out great. Like, I woke up 30 minutes ago. My roommate left some stuff that she needed for school, so I had to race over there and come back to be on time for once. Flex called a show for how one of the Maritime Mondays. We only recently recommended that. Remembered that. Yeah, well, she said that in the last Maritime Monday that we watched, I think. How dare. How dare. Kaiser, how are you doing, sir? What's am I doing? Not too much. Just about to start the show of Maritime Monday and some Lego building. How are you doing? Your brain is coconuts. It is coconuts. That's how it rolls in the morning. I haven't been walking too much, and an old ankle injury is flaring up. Oh, geez. I'm sorry. Hope it doesn't get too bad. Ahoy hoy, Komigohan. Ahoy hoy. Okay. Yeah, without further ado, you guys know the drill. I will mute myself, I will welcome people, and I will say goodbye to people. And I will insert my comments here and there whenever I feel necessary. I'm good hanging there trying to get this chapter done. Big drama, but it's been a long time coming. I'm excited for your book, Kaiser. I hope you finish it successfully and just how you want it. No rushing. Don't rush unless that's your thing. But what was I saying? I don't know what I was saying. Just Dawn. How are you? Wow, feels like it's been a long time since I saw you. But yeah, I will mute myself. I'll welcome people in. I'll say goodbye to people, and I will insert my comment here and there whenever I feel necessary. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm finishing. I'm within the last maybe 2, 3 chapters from the end. The big plunge before the finale. Ooh, hello, been there, done that. Welcome. All the Vice Squad is coming in today. Ooh wee, it's a little big party in here. We just need a few more people than all the Vice Squads here. Collect them one at a time, just like Pokemon. Uh, oh yeah, and please let me know if the video audio is too loud or too quiet, and I'll adjust accordingly. And make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. You know, it helps the channel out. We can make new friends because it'll engage to the algorithm. Isn't that fun? And if you already are subscribed, please double check that you still are because the good old YouTube loves to get rid of people. So make sure you're still subscribed. Hit the bell button just so you can get all the notifications whenever I put on the host or I go live. Now, yeah, do the former Mary Jane, not the latter, because YouTube is indeed asshole. You got it right, Lady Sky. Now, I think. Oh, hello, Michelle. Hello from the UK. Good to see you. Good to see you from good old Utah, USA. Sit back, relax, grab a drink, grab a snack. Let us enjoy part 8 of the Maritime Monday, which is the Ocean Ranger oil rig disaster. What a great way to start your morning with a beautiful disaster, don't you guys think? So I will put my camera down. I will get my diffuser going, or vape, as you guys call it, or on fire. Then yeah, let us. Oh, I need to put myself up a little bit. So nope, not that one. This one. Go up there. So I'm out of everyone's way. There you go. I just caught a freaking mosquito. Hell yeah. Take that. Oh yeah. Closed caption. Boop is on. There you go. And now let us begin. Let me mute myself after I put my thing down. Bloop.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever
Okay. Dad, really? I don't look. I don't like that look of mustache. Really? Oh my gosh. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
you might be, good night. It's me, Legal Vices. It's Maritime Monday on a Sunday for some of you. But it is Maritime Monday for me here in Korea.
Good morning, Denise. How are you doing?
It is Monday morning, 10:03 a.m. Today is a holiday here, so I'm taking advantage of the fact that I'm not at work right now to hit this stream. So yeah, I plan on being completely somewhere else today. Probably gonna hit the beach. Probably gonna have a few drinks out and about on the town and just kind of enjoying life. So that's why we're doing it.
Everyone that is watching this, let me get rid of this real quick. That right there tells you a little secret about Dad. Ooh, if you know, you know.
In my morning time instead of my evening time or your evening time instead of my morning time. So wait, that didn't make sense. Whatever. You know what I mean. So where are we all from today? This is a whole different demographic. Uh, yeah, obviously I'm in Korea. It's 10:03 a.m. We've got Germany. Barney Yummum, welcome back. Yeah, where are we at here? Steph, hey Steph, you're here. We got the mods here. Where's the rest of me mods? Oh hey, there we
Denise, what are you making? Sorry, I was supposed to get my Harry Potter crochet kit and go a lock and key instead. Well, I am building the city of Gondor from the Lord of the Rings. Right there, you can see. Bloop. What I'm making today. God, this mustache deal right there is distracting me big time. Big time.
there we are. Where are we? I saw mods check in. I'm not going to go back through all of this chat. Alan Tempest here is trying to turn all of my viewers away, telling them that I'm confused about my AMs and PMs and I got them switched. Nope, this is a legit thing that we're doing right now. So yes, today Maritime Monday because it's Monday. All righty, good to see we've got the regular Rogues Gallery here. We've got a grand total of 47 people here. Didn't mean to freak people out by coming on at a different time than you might be used to, but I gave enough advance notice. We'll see if people come and join us as we go on. Hopefully, there'll be some new folks in the crowd that'll be participating. This Maritime Monday is usually the slowest day of the week because it's kind of a niche thing that we do here, but we're ready to go. So anytime anybody wants to jump in, please feel free. We're going to be starting our little stream here and doing streamy things. Let me quickly get my screen ready to share. All right. We are ready to go. So let's go through our usual startup thing. Your beard looks fresh. I look like a caveman. This is it was trimmed a week ago, but I finally did I remembered to sort of groom the stash so that it doesn't get moist from my official Johnny Depp Megapint Legal Vices Pimp Cup, which is full of Pepsi this morning. Montana Girl 56, hello from Brigham City. Yep, just over the hill from where I grew up. Yeah, I need to be a little more careful about keeping the stash groomed because I find I've been doing this a lot on stream to keep it out of my mouth and to dry it off when I have a drink. So yep. Oh yeah.
Listen to your dad? Really? No, I'm not going to listen to my dad because I do not like that look of mustache on his face. And who cares if my mustache gets nice and moist from the tea that I'm drinking? It will dry up. It's going to be okay. Hello, Gilda Lily. My mom loves Pepsi. Pepsi and Coke are not my thing. I love Sprite. I love Fanta. I love pretty much any other sodas except for Coke or Pepsi. Ladies do like it moist. That is true, Ben.
Well, Solvis asked where's the black hat for the sea show? Yeah, my Polish fishing boat captain's hat. But I figured it's a holiday, so I went with the vacation theme today. got the Panama hat and the shirt on. So yeah, we're going for the vacation look day, the Caribbean vacation day today. But I probably should put the other hat on, but yeah, I'm too lazy. We'll skip it today. because that would be the appropriate dark hat for the really dark subject we're going to be talking about today.
Yes, Kaiser. A well-oiled stash is the key, but a heavily gelled up, waxed mustache is, not really. Mustache Store's flavor? Damn straight, David. Heck yeah. I stopped drinking pop and switched to clearly Canadian. Huh, interesting. I'm so happy you're doing this. I miss Maritime Monday with the big ball of fun guy. Yep, I'm glad you guys are here to watch it. Be careful turning Kaiser upside down. Yeah, he might get all the blood rush to his head and then pass out, because that's not good. Don't do that.
Uh, where to start? Well, let's start out by welcoming everybody here. Welcome to the mods, welcome to you viewers, and welcome to the people that are just joining me for the very first time. Currently we have, what do we have? I got to adjust my screen here. All right. We have 61 concurrent viewers and 48 likes. We're off to a great start. So as you come in, please do me a favor and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button. That'll make the YouTube gods happy. Oh, but I did leave my door open. So you can't see my Godzilla posters. Oh well. That'll let the dogs come in and out. So yeah, hit that like and subscribe button, especially the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. That would be great. And as always, you subscribers, just double check to make sure you're still subscribed. Just make sure that YouTube didn't decide that they wanted to unsubscribe you for some ridiculous reason, which they always seem to find. And the one of the 2 or 3 times I mentioned it, these super chats. Get those super chats going. That is the way to get in touch with me, to make sure that I answer your question, to make sure that I address whatever it is you're saying, and to make sure that whatever you feel like you need to have read out live, that's the way to do it. The super chats, as always, they are not.
Hello, Teresa. How are you doing? I was just gonna say that door open is going to bug him. Yeah. Just like the one time that I said he looked like Doc Brown wow, Black to the Future. Back to the Future? I don't think he knew how to take that. I said, that's fucking awesome. Not a swinger, I just like pineapples. Are you sure, Kaiser? He has pineapple on his shirt. Yep. That's the true secret that Dad kept. If you know, you know.
Required, but they are deeply, deeply appreciated when you do so. So, all right, take care, sit back, and enjoy the ride. And I will pull up our subject today and give you a little bit of a background, but Andrew Maggard starts us off with a super chat. Griffstream was fire, still laughing about Taser Boy. Yeah, there were so many videos we didn't get to. So next month's F Friday, we'll be using more videos. I love Sovereign Citizens. I love watching the videos, and I love the fact that the majority of them end with them telling the police, "You don't have jurisdiction over me. The laws don't apply to me," and they always end with ah! That's tasers.
Danielle, hello. Good morning. Back to the Future is our friend Brian here, and I wasn't aware. I don't know. Maybe if we say the name 3 times, then he might pop up. Who knows, Kaiser? Who knows? We can try it out. That's an awesome outfit, and we grew up loving Doc Brown. Gotcha. God, that. So for Dad, currently, the open door's gonna bug him. For me, his frickin' waxed up, gelled mustache is gonna bother me. Miami Spice, hello. Welcome. I'm a traveler of land in my land ship. I like when sovereign citizens say that. I've never heard sovereign citizens say that, so that's interesting.
Being deployed against sovereign citizens is one of my favorite things to watch. Thank you so much for that. Deeply appreciated, Andrew. Today, again, it's a rather solemn topic. This is the biggest disaster we've talked about on this stream. Let me pull up the screen to share here. Chrome tab. All right, we need this one here. And boop. Tonight, we are talking about the Ocean Ranger oil rig disaster. This is a particularly tragic event. And it was recommended by one of the viewers early on in my YouTube career. I've been meaning to get to it. Steph in the house. Thank you, Steph. Hi, Legal Vice is looking good with that shirt on today. It's the shirt on is better than the shirt off today. So thank you so much, Steph. That is deeply appreciated. The oil rig disaster was one of the. It still may be the biggest oil rig disaster that's ever taken place, and that's what we're going to be talking about. John, long last name, said oil. And again, you don't have to do the super chats to get something read, but that guarantees it will get read. I try to look at the chat and bring up relevant questions and comments when I can, but I'm focused a lot on the video and doing other things behind the scenes, so I don't always see everything.
If you think this is bad, wait for the Byford dolphin disaster, the word degloving got tossed around a lot. Well, degloving is the best kind. Don't question me. Don't question my sanity. Hello, Alan. How are you doing, sir?
That's there. But yeah, John Long last name says oil field is my stuff. Give it to us raw. You may or may not be familiar with this case, but it is a doozy. But is he wearing pants? I told you, it's summer. Pants are not part of my wardrobe at home in the summer. All righty. Have I covered the BP oil spill? No, not yet. We've only done 7 of these. We'll get there. So let's bring this up. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the new.
Hey, Kaiser, is the BP spill the one that you're mentioning? That Colonel Crayon is also talking about? I've done something to my microphone. I'm still here. Okay, how do you feel now, Connor? Okay, so let me clarify this. He just said that pants does not exist in his summertime wardrobe. That is only if he's home alone. If he has company over, of course. Hence, our prison does not apply anymore. But again, I don't need to really know that.
News reports from the night of the incident, and then we'll go into a breakdown video of what happened. And again, yeah, it's kind of hard to make jokes about things like this, but we'll try to be as tasteful as possible in bringing light humor and irreverence to a really tragic thing. And it doesn't take a lot. I mean, right from the beginning, I have issues. Let me pull this up over here so I can be on the same page with everybody. I don't have a big giant monitor. I need about 4 giant monitors to do what I do here. Or I need to become super famous, get millions of followers, and then I can pay someone to do all this shit. Flux says, I don't understand why people wear clothes at the house. Pants or prison. Well, I wear clothes in the house because you get sweaty if you don't. You need something to wick the sweat away from you. Um, but anyway, let's get on to the disaster.
Aaron M.F. Young. I really like Jeff. We all love Jeff. That's why we're here. Sit back, relax, and enjoy some Maritime Monday on a Tuesday.
Good evening. The biggest
See that, and I don't like the way this starts right off. It's you got this gigantic rig disaster thing, and if you read the description of the video or read my tweet that I posted about the video, this
Be stoned. Welcome.
accident resulted in the death of 84 people. And we're going to talk about that. So here we have this giant graphic behind him, rig disaster, a big explosion, even though there wasn't an explosion on the rig. And then you've got the guy, good evening. Let me tell you about 84 people that are dead. News people, they need to check themselves sometimes and make sure they're appropriate.
Good morning, sis. How are ya? Yeah, you were just barely on screen, Flux.
So there we go. Let's get on with it with Happy Joe as he tells us about this disaster.
Good evening. The biggest oil rig in the world, the rig called Ocean Ranger, is lying at the bottom of the sea. It collapsed and sank off the coast of Newfoundland in a fierce Atlantic gale. Missing and presumed drowned are 84 people, the Ranger's entire crew. 10 bodies have been sighted, but no survivors have been found. We have several reports, the first from Barbara Yaffe.
The Ocean Ranger. This is the oil rig that disappeared into the Atlantic Ocean sometime early this morning. It's a floating platform about the size of a football field anchored to the sea bottom. It first suffered listing problems last week.
And one thing you're going to hear about these rigs and things is just the massive size of them and how they're actually connected to the bottom of the ocean, and not the way a lot of people think they are. But this is something that again you're going to hear throughout this news coverage and the breakdown video. This platform, apart from being the largest oil rig platform in the world at this time, had a history of safety issues.
When it went down today, the 84 men on board took to 3 lifeboats. It's unlikely that any of them survived. The Ocean Ranger was one of 3 rigs working this winter off Newfoundland's east coast, drilling on the Hibernia site. It's a rough environment, and it was in the middle of a wicked winter storm that the rig capsized today. Helicopters were at the site of the disaster within a few hours. The helicopters were sent from armed forces bases around the east coast and were later joined by fixed-wing aircraft. Supply boats have also been searching the area for survivors. The only first-hand reports on the disaster have come from these search crews.
We saw a few bodies, and then we continued our search. A couple of life rafts were overturned, and as the search went on, myself and the other helicopter, we came across various mounds of debris and a few other bodies and life rafts.
Was there any sign of life there?
Not that we could see, no.
You tried to make a rescue. You tried to pick up one of the bodies. What happened?
It wasn't a rescue.
Yeah, it wasn't a
First
rescue, it was
body
a
we came
recovery.
upon,
Mary Jane, I am wearing pants. I am.
we tried to lower a SAR tech down to see if he can see if there's any life, and we put him in the water, but the waves are about 40, 50 feet, and he was close enough to ascertain that there was no life. The fellow was dead, and he was fully dressed in his immersion suit and had a life vest on, and we attempted to recover, but it was too dangerous for our SAR tech, so
Millie, good morning. Welcome, welcome. Connor is in prison. Well, okay. I have the camera pointed down. I may walk away and do other stuff. I'm going to wear pants.
brought him back in, continued our search for possible survivors.
Mo-
Someone asked what year this occurred. Oh yeah, it was Vicky T asked what year did this happen. It was 15th of February 1982. So and you know that somehow that makes it a little more tragic, I guess. You have 84 families that Valentine's Day probably isn't going to be the happiest time of their lives again. So yeah, it was February 15th, 1982. So it's been a while. Back to the story.
Mobil Oil, the rig's operator, hasn't been able to explain why the rig went down.
We really have very few details. We just know that we were contacted early in the morning that the men had gone to their lifeboats. We then know we dispatched two helicopters to the area. We have sighted.
And listen, keep these things in mind because there's it's not as simple as she's saying it is as the Mobil Oil spokesman is making it. Yeah, they got the news reports. They did dispatch 2 helicopters, but we'll talk more about that later.
2 of the lifeboats and a life raft. We have not yet located the rig.
The province plans to hold a full inquiry into this tragedy. Right now, there are very
Hello, Cinderblock for Tires. Connor said it's like Cheers, where everyone knows your name and says hello when you show up. Because we like to welcome people, make them feel welcomed. And, uh, welcome. Yeah, welcome.
few answers and a great many questions. And tonight, for the relatives of those people who were working aboard the Ocean Ranger, all there is the agony of hoping against hope. Barbara Yatty, CBC News, St. John's.
As night
Now, Montana Girl brings up a great question. And again, I'm stopping the videos quite a bit just so we can avoid any unnecessary copyright claims. Got to break it up a little bit. The rig was listing for a week, yet it still had 84 people on it. It's actually a little worse than that. Why weren't people removed until this issue was addressed? Of course, it was a terrible accident waiting to happen. As we will see, it was way more of a terrible accident, way more likely to happen, to the point where at the end of watching all of this and you're reading a little bit more about it, I'm surprised this didn't happen a long time before it did. But we'll see. We'll see the details as it goes on.
along the Newfoundland coast, the search for survivors and bodies was suspended. Families of the rig workers remained silent, as though by some miracle there would be survivors. Of the 84 people on board, about 54 are from Newfoundland. 20 are from other provinces and 10 are Americans. But tonight, while people wait, there are serious questions being raised about the safety of the Ocean Ranger and evidence it had a brush with disaster last week. The rig had a record of accidents to the extent that members of the crew developed a very low opinion of it.
Call it the Ocean Danger. It's pretty well common knowledge that people call it that. It's been called that for over a year now anyways. The Ocean Danger.
A week ago, St. Aubin was on the Ocean Ranger when something went wrong with the ballast, and it developed a severe list to one side.
We had an abandoned boat alarm, and we went to the boat stations. But what happened was that the people on the low side of the rig, in case the rig tilted.
BG Peaches. Welcome back. It's 8 degrees, Alan, so I'm jealous.
Tilted over on that side, they left their stations and came up all to the one station. So we had approximately 63 people that showed up at that boat station, and the boat is only supposed to hold 50. And there were also not enough life preservers. There were about 10 people walking around without life preservers.
So see, you're seeing, I mean, this is the guy that's saying they've been calling it the Ocean Danger for over a year. You've got all the lifeboat problems. You've got the life preserver problems. You've got a lot of dangerous situations waiting to happen. And they're talking about people leaving their stations. That immediately calls into question training. And for those of you that are now just joining us here, we've got 107 viewers now. We're talking about the Ocean Ranger oil rig, the largest oil rig in the world at that time. It sank, and that's what we're talking about today.
And also, we were there for about 10 minutes, and during that time, they couldn't start the boat on the motor, start the engine on the lifeboat.
But at a news conference tonight in St. John's, Mobil insisted that its safety measures are up to standard.
I've heard comments on lack of safety procedures on the Ocean Ranger, which surprises me because we do watch these. To my knowledge, the safety procedures were adequate.
Well, Bob Newhart here thinks that the safety procedures were adequate. An hour and a half from now, let's see if you think that the safety procedures and the protocols were accurate or not.
Because we do watch these. To my knowledge, the safety procedures were adequate.
But in recent weeks, there is growing evidence that safety has been a concern all the way around. The provincial government has been scrambling, trying to put in place some safety legislation. Although there's been no move yet to suspend drilling on 2 other rigs operating in the same area, rigs that rode out last night's storm. And the federal government also appears concerned. 2 weeks ago, it put an inspector on board the Ocean Ranger, and while there is no hint of what his report may contain, it will no doubt form an important part of the lengthy investigation that will now follow.
Really, have you slept much? Oh, you haven't slept much. 3 hours. Slept for 3 hours. Think I might be a vampire. Nah. Who knows? Reporter looks like Dudley Moore. Don't know who that is. Ulrich sings, everyone dies. The safety procedure worked, guys. Yeah, the lie detector determined that was a lie. I don't know. Alleged lie, Kaiser. Alleged. Who knows? It might be really true.
Whit Fraser, CBC News, St. John's.
There were angry questions in the House of Commons today about that federal inspection of the Ranger. And Mike Duffy has that story.
Friends of those who lost their lives.
The House of Commons had no sooner passed its unanimous expression of sorrow at the tragedy than opposition MPs were on their feet, demanding answers to suggestions that government inspectors knew the rig was dangerous.
The alarm on the Ocean Ranger was sounded last week because the rig was listing 15 degrees, and indeed the order was given to abandon ship.
So there's the answer to one of your questions. When it was listing the week before, it was listing 15 degrees doesn't sound like a lot. But when you're on a 15-degree incline, that's a pretty steep list. That's a pretty steep angle you're looking at there. And when it was listing, and they had the safety inspector on 2 weeks before the accident, the week before this accident, they had this other listing problem. And as he said, the order to abandon ship was given a week before this accident, but
May I ask the minister, in view of the tragic loss of life and the fact that the unsinkable Ocean Ranger has in fact sunk, if his department investigated that alarm, the cause of that alarm, and is he now able to report to the House?
I am informed that an inspector from the Canada Oil and Gas Lands Act administration did inspect the platform in the last 2 weeks. I have not a copy of that report, and I cannot give any particular information in that respect.
Given the fact that this rig contained 85 people on the North Atlantic this time of the year, I find it incredible that the minister responsible would not have seen these inspection reports.
Late this afternoon, the government announced there will be a formal inquiry into today's disaster. But the Energy Department says it will not make public its inspection report on the seaworthiness of the Ocean Ranger until the inquiry actually begins. Opposition MPs say they'll continue to press for its release because they say that report could show that prompt action by the federal government might have prevented today's tragedy. Mike Duffy, CBC News, Ottawa.
those are the news stories. So that was the news stories from the day of the accident. 85 people gone. February 15th, off the coast of Nova Scotia. I mean, Newfoundland. They're up there. The Newfoundland winters, not the warmest places. The weather, we're gonna hear a lot about the weather in this upcoming video. But though that was the initial news stories. Duya says, have you ever looked at the lake? It's probably not Pigner, but Pineur, but that's no, I have never heard of this. And please, if there's a particular maritime accident that you want to look, and why do we do these? For those of you that are joining for the first time, why are we doing maritime accidents? Because that's the area of law that I deal with, maritime and admiralty law. So we just kind of devote one day a week, Mondays, Maritime Monday, to these types of incidents, because I know what I'm talking about. This is the one time I get to kind of nerd out a little bit. But yeah, if there is a particular accident you want me to take a look at, send me an email at thelegalvices@gmail.com, or send something to my Twitter, which is thelegalvices at Twitter. So if you do that, then I will look into it. And I said, we only do this once a week. We got a backlog. We're going through them. So it may not happen immediately, but I will definitely look at it. So please do that. That's the best way to do it, because I forget these things while I'm streaming. Solvis asks a very good question. What's cheaper, fixing the issues or paying the wrongful death lawsuits? That is exactly the question that every product manufacturer, every vehicle manufacturer makes before they decide whether or not to issue a recall. That is literally what that's what they calculate. They say, okay, and I can't remember what the actual equation is. It's like burden of replacement plus costs. I can't remember what the equation is, but basically they sit down, their legal team and their insurance team crunch numbers. They say, okay, we have this known defect with our vehicle or our product. We figure it's likely to injure or kill X number of people. How much is it going to take to pay off the families or the victims to make the problem go away? Okay, that's X number of dollars. Now, how much is it going to cost us to recall all of these items, fix this particular issue we're having, and return the products to the car, or to the product or car to the people? So what's it going to cost? How many people are going to die or be injured? And what's it going to cost to pay them off? Or two, how much is it going to cost to replace it? And then they make their decision. Do we issue the recall and go through the costs of rectifying the problem? Or do we just write it out and pay off the people as they die and become injured? So yeah, that is a legitimate question that product manufacturers ask every day. That's the reality. That's something you talk about in your torts classes in law school. My wife is wondering when you're reopening Jurassic Park. Now, I have a white shirt that I will not wear the white shirt when I wear this hat because it just looks scary. But we also decided that's going to be my Halloween costume this year. Steph, thank you so much. As always, so deeply appreciated. Can I just say, Legal Vices, you have the most amazing chat. My chat is the bomb. I do have the best chat on the internet. So you guys rock. Mods rock. Everybody rocks. So, all right. We've set the background. We've gone through the the news stories from the day of the accident, February 15th, 1982. So let's take it. Let's look at the breakdown here now. Bring up the in-depth video. And this video is from whose site did I get this video from? Brick and Mortar. He was the one that brought us the bridge disaster and a couple of the other incidents we've done. Great site. He does some amazing breakdowns and reviews of major structural disasters, shipping accidents, bridge collapses, things like that. It's a great site. Head over to Brick and Mortar and subscribe to him if you're interested in those things. Like I have to push and promote him because I am taking my videos from his channel because they're frankly the best out there for dealing with these things. So that's my promo for Brick and Mortar. And this video, as you can see, is titled Tragically Inexperienced, the Ocean Ranger Oil Rig Disaster. That sums it up. We're going to start out, by the way, with the actual radio call, and then it'll go into the breakdown.
Sir, mobile radio calling? Yeah. Got an emergency on the Ocean Ranger? Yeah. Just a second. Ocean Ranger, Jack, are you there? Can you give us anything else on it right now? We're listening badly, and we need to get the people off the rig and the bodies. We may not be able to hold a rig lights down over.
The rig is going over.
70, anywhere 35, 80 miles an hour.
So you're on this gigantic floating football field. The winds are 70, 80 miles an hour. And when you're close to shore, the waves aren't really that high. But when you're out in the middle of the ocean, the waves can be pretty impressive, and you're gonna see how the waves played into this disaster.
It was 1976, and as offshore oil drilling was slowly reaching new depths, the semi-submersible drilling platforms, often referred to as oil rigs, were also evolving quickly. And as with any emerging technology,
can you imagine working on something that looked like that? That's amazing.
And industry with considerable hazards, but massive rewards for many parties involved. At a reported cost of $120 million, Ocean Drilling and Exploration Company Incorporated, or ODECO, out of New Orleans, would commission the world's largest semi-submersible platform of the time period, the Ocean Ranger. Semi-submersibles, a much more stable platform for drilling, were a solution to...
Now, this right here is something that a lot of people don't know. These oil rigs, they're not attached to the bottom of the ocean. Those pylons are not drilled or secured to the bottom of the ocean. They're literally floating on these giant pontoons and anchored with anchors to the ocean, and then they have the drill bit.
To the drill ship's lack of stability. Don't let the look of these platforms fool you, though, as oftentimes they're portrayed in media, movies, and TV, all as stationary structures, with the foundation reaching all the way to the seabed. There are some examples of these, but many times they're semi-submersible marine vessels, essentially a ship,
yeah, they're
but with
big
holes
fucking ships
underwater, and all you typically see is the superstructure above. Traveling long distances is also no issue, being moved via heavy lift ships, tugboats, and for more local positioning, many even have their own propulsion.
And these ships are awesome. If you ever get to see one of these ships in action, you want to see them, because you're looking at this thing that is ridiculously tall, ridiculously long. It's like I said, it's the size of a football field.
Yeah, Ben, I assume it would have some uh flexibility to it. Because if not, it'll just snap right in half. I've never place that builds the rigs. Fuck me when you see them sitting in the water. They're massive. I bet. I bet. Edibility. Nice. But there's a reason why they get paid good.
In the hulls, also capable of riding atop the waves at a shallow draft, like a surface vessel, if necessary. The most common type of semi-submersible drill rig is the rectangular platform atop massive columns that reach down to 2 hulls or pontoons. The hulls submerged well below the waterline, maintaining a deep draft, with each pontoon divided into multiple massive ballast tanks, their levels of water controlled by the pump room, which regulates flow into, out of, and between them. Keeping the platform balanced, upright, and in the worst case scenarios, can act as an anti-heeling system. By design, they can maintain a position so deep beneath the waterline that, when managed properly, the platform is inherently much more stable than typical vessels at much shallower draft by comparison, making precise operations like steady, deep drilling possible. Laid down by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries out of Hiroshima, Japan in 1976, the Mobile Offshore Drilling Unit, or MODU, Ocean Ranger, made its maiden voyage in June of that year, taking it from the shipyards of Japan to the waters off the Alaskan coast. The Ocean Ranger would be the largest at the time, at nearly 400 feet in length, 262 feet wide, and 337 feet high.
337 feet high. Again, that's longer than a football field. That's a football field plus the end zones for American football, of course. So that just tells you the size of these things. 400 feet long, 300 feet wide, and 337 feet tall.
Featuring a helideck, crane, lifeboats, and capacity for up to roughly 100 crew. With 8 columns atop 2 pontoons, it would be capable of operating in a maximum of 1,500-foot depths, the approximate deepest of the time period, with well drilling operations capable of a maximum 25,000 feet deep into the ocean floor. The Odeco company also considering it unsinkable.
Unsinkable. We really, really, as humans, need to stop saying that. We didn't learn the lesson with the unsinkable Titanic. Unsinkable is probably a jinx. You say it's unsinkable, and God or Poseidon or Ulmo or whoever you happens to be the particular lord of your sea will find a way to take away your hubris as humans and sink this thing. People were mentioning that there was a surprise that it was built in Japan. At that time, Japan was the leading oil rig platform manufacturer in the world. Korea is building a large number of oil platforms right now.
Like, whenever you say the word unsinkable, expect it to sink and expect it to take things with it as it sinks. Hello, Amy Evans. Welcome in. Ollie Brown was the only true unsinkable. I don't get it.
That's just what you do in the maritime communities. You build things, and the shipyards in Japan and Korea are tops in the world.
Moored by 12 45,000-pound anchors, each.
That's how it stays stable. 12 anchors, each weighing 45,000 pounds. So you sink it low down in the water, you drop the anchors, and that keeps it stable enough to drill.
Fastened to one length of 3¼ inch chain and another length of 3½ inch wire rope for redundancy, giving this a breaking strength of approximately 1.2 million pounds per anchor mooring, laid out in a pattern radiating outward, 3 to each corner of the platform. The chains stored in massive chain lockers at the bases of each 4 main columns, with openings near the top to dispense and retract the chains.
over
The
20
vessel
tons
operating
each.
in many locations, like off the coast of Ireland, the Bering Sea, Gulf of Alaska, the coast of New Jersey, and more throughout its life. In November of 1980, the Ocean Ranger would arrive in the Hibernia oil fields, as they're known, an oil-rich location off the coast of Newfoundland, the Grand Banks area of the North Atlantic. Although this is an incredibly dangerous job, no secret there. At the same time, it's commonly held that these types of platforms are designed specifically to weather even the roughest seas. Doing so, however, obviously requires skill in seafaring, and more crucially, a crew specializing in these platforms' unique ballast control systems. Contracted by Mobil Oil, the platform had been drilling in the Hibernia oil field successfully for the past year. Odeco crews responsible for the platform, and Mobil crews responsible for the well and drilling operations. With a crew of 84 on board, 68 Canadian citizens, 15 U.S. citizens, and 1 British citizen, the master, Captain Clarence House, a U.S. citizen, held a master's license of self-propelled vessels, but prior to joining Odeco in 1981, for the past 10 years, had worked in non-mariner positions for previous employers.
Now, here you're seeing the beginnings of what was going wrong on the Ocean Ranger. Thank you very much, Hunch the Dirty Roofer. Thank you so much for the super chat. Engineer, it's unsinkable. God, hold my beer. Yep, and God has officially handed off his beer at this point in the narrative. Again, basically from the time that it arrived at the drilling location, they were already calling it the Ocean Danger. The captain, he said he was licensed to be a captain of vessels such as this, but as they said, he hadn't worked in that position for more than 10 years. And you lose a lot of your skills. The advancements in shipping that happen over a 10-year period are enormous. And you also, you lose your instincts, you lose a lot of your skills, you're not up to date on the latest technology, and more importantly, how to use it. But that is the least of the problems. Oh, Marv White, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the hot dog. Now you're making me hungry. I didn't have breakfast yet.
Having been
Let's
assigned
back up a little bit
years
here.
of held vessels, but prior to joining Odeco in 1981, for the past 10 years, had worked in non-mariner positions for previous employers, having been assigned to the Ocean Ranger only on a temporary basis just 19 days prior to February 14th. Although important to note, the master is actually not in command, only being responsible for training and supervision of ballast control operations, the loading of deck cargo.
Now, let's back up here and talk. There's two things I want to talk about.
Only on a temporary basis, just 19 days prior.
So he'd been there. This captain who had been out of the captaining business, he'd been non-mariner positions for 10 years, was put there, and he'd only been there for 19 days before the accident happened. But as they say, it's important to note the master is actually not in command. He's responsible for training and supervision of ballast control operations. What's the ballast control operations? I'll explain it here, but just quickly, those big pontoons that are floating there, they have chambers in them, and you fill them up with water to make the ship sink down. You pump the water out to make the vessel float, and if you're off kilter, you pump water into this side and push water out of this side to bring it up to balance. The captain is in charge of that. He's in charge of supervising the ballast control operations. Now, remember what happened a week before this disaster. The vessel had a listing problem. The ballast was incorrect. And who was in charge of the ballasting control systems? The captain, who'd only been there for 19 days and had been out of the mariner positions for at least 10 years. As Colonel Crayon says, So he was the man responsible for making sure it didn't say capsize or list. Exactly. A Newfoundlander here, Bruce White. Thank you so much for the super chat. The Ocean Ranger was a tragedy for many families here. Looking forward to your take on it. Well, thank you very much. That's what we're doing today. It still may be, as I said earlier, the largest oil rig platform tragedy. Maybe not the most expensive, but as far as loss of life goes, I believe it is still the biggest disaster. So yeah, we've got the guy that's in charge of making sure it doesn't list, and it's listed twice since he got on there, and then in his illustrious 19 days that he was on board this thing. And again, like I said, we are just starting this video, and we're already going way downhill, and it just gets more insane.
Command, only being responsible for training and supervision of ballast control operations, the loading of deck cargo, general marine-related maintenance, and crew safety training. Odeco and Mobil organized these platforms' command structure such that the positions of tool pusher and drilling foreman outranked the captain. Just like so many oil drilling companies are known for, many processes, certification standards, working conditions, and just day-to-day operations are often outside of what local, provincial, or even federal jurisdictions require, often making attempts to keep issues or incidents internal or within the company, so to speak. Above
Remember, I told you that the Mobil Oil spokesman may not have explained things exactly the way they happened. It's because of things like this.
Of the law or above reproach are the phrases that come to mind when discussing many of these major oil companies. This culture, of course, permeating down throughout all ranks. The tool pusher, the senior-most Odeco team member and highest-ranking officer on board, Mr. Kent Thompson, a U.S. citizen with 15 years drilling experience, had certifications in well control, rig management, and other related specializations. The drilling foreman, a Mobil employee, there to represent Mobil's interest and essentially the tool pusher's Mobil Oil counterpart, Mr. Jack Jacobson, a Canadian citizen with 16 years related drilling experience. Many crewmen held multiple roles supporting this complex vessel, both as an industrial installation and seafaring structure. Operating in roughly 260 feet of water off the coast of Newfoundland, the Ocean Ranger was one of 3 rigs moored and actively drilling in the Hibernia oil field. The other 2 being the 367-foot-long Zapata Ugland, roughly 19 miles from the Ranger, and the 296-foot-long Sedco 706, 9 miles away. Each platform support ship remaining on standby roughly 1 to 6 miles away from their assigned rig.
I mean, look at how massive those. I mean, they're just huge. I've been down to the shipyard here. There's a Colje Island is about an hour down the coast from me, and they have two shipyards, ship construction yards, the Daewoo shipping yard and Samsung, and the oil platforms they're building are indescribably huge.
The Hibernia oil field nearly 200 miles off the coast near St. John's. Weather forecast by Mobil Oil's Newfoundland Oceans Research and Development Corporation, or NORDCO, predicted that by early AM Sunday, conditions were likely to deteriorate,
an hour down the coast.
with winds of 60 knots and seas of up to 24 feet on their way due to a disturbance coming northward from the Gulf of Mexico. The disturbance, considered weak at first, but intensifying rapidly as it approached Newfoundland and the Grand Banks at roughly 35 knots. The storm reached the Hibernia oil fields by 2:30 a.m. Sunday, February 14th, with winds of about 30 knots. Nothing too concerning at this point. The Ocean Ranger's pontoons currently at an approximate 80-foot draft, which put the ballast control room at roughly 28 feet above the waterline.
So when they're saying it has an 80-foot draft, what they're meaning is approximately 80 feet of this vessel, of this oil rig, 80 feet of this oil rig is underwater. So I said that you keep it way down low in the water, and that gives you a lot of stability to withstand the waves. And again, this is an important note to note the position of the ballast control room. Again, that is what controls the water in the pontoons that balances the boat, raises it, and lowers it. I keep saying boat. It's essentially a vessel. I should say rig. It raises and lowers the rig, and you can tilt it to either side. And the control room right now is about 28 feet above the water.
These platforms, having instilled such a high level of confidence over the years, withstanding many major storms in the past, meant drilling operations would continue and remain a priority unless waves reach a magnitude that vertical travel, or heave, of the vessel exceeds 15 feet. It takes an incredibly strong storm to stop drilling, essentially ceasing operations being a last resort.
Money before safety, people.
The winds and swells intensifying throughout the day, and the forecast updated at 1:30 p.m. by Nordco that by 8:30 p.m., wind speeds would reach 90 knots and swells 35 feet in height, along with poor visibility, snow, and throughout the night, swells increasing to upwards of 46 feet.
So essentially, they're saying 50-foot waves are coming your direction. They showed you the graphic of the swell pushing the ship, above 15 feet. Well, there's 50-foot waves coming. So what's that going to do to the ship? You're in kind of a situation where you're still drilling. Of course, you got to keep drilling because money. You got to keep drilling. But so they decide, do we need to stop drilling or not? If you raise the vessel to give the waves more room to pass under you, if you raise up the oil rig so that the waves can go under, then you reduce the stability because you're too high in the water. But if you don't, do you put this ship at risk? Well, we know what they chose because that's what we're talking about today.
More than enough time and forecast for preparations to be made. By 6:58 p.m., after hours of battling worsening conditions, the storm living up to predictions, the Ocean Ranger's tool pusher, Kent Thompson, reported via satellite phone to Jim Counts, Odeco's shore-based drilling superintendent, the tool pusher's boss, that the Ranger had ceased drilling operations and disconnected as the winds had reached 65 knots, with the platform heaving to upwards of 22 feet.
So now we've identified. Now it's so the conditions are so bad that Mobil Oil is no longer interested in making money. That's where we are at this point. And 15 feet upward motion was the limit for ceasing the operation. So now they've already exceeded that.
The other platforms disconnecting earlier, ceasing drilling operations a few hours prior. The Ranger having demonstrated in the past its capability of continued drilling in weather conditions too severe for its smaller counterparts, before now having disconnected due to weather only once in its 5-year lifespan. Standard procedure also dictated rigs deballast and raise their draft 5 feet or more after disconnecting in severe weather, a procedure that the Ocean Ranger was discovered later to have also never followed.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
remember, of course, the news stories with the Mobil Oil spokesman saying that everything was followed and we're confident that everything was done properly and adequately. Turns out it wasn't. Even though he said, we monitor this, we watch this, we make sure these things are followed. It wasn't. They didn't raise the ship as they were supposed to. Ballasting problem.
Was discovered later to have also never followed. In fact, on February 6th, just over a week prior, the platform suddenly began to list 6 degrees to port when taking on fuel from its supply ship. 6 degrees in a structure like this is significant. Taking on fuel from the supply ship, the ballast control operator on duty at the time was relieved by the ship's master, Captain House, midway through the process. Captain House, for some reason, when attempting to pump out tank 14, assuming for balancing, while fuel filled tank 12.
Here we go. Pay attention to this part, because remember, the guy who has not been in a mariner position for over 10 years and that is temporarily on this ship, he's been there. He was there for 19 days before the accident. This is a week before. So subtract 7 days, and you're looking at he's been there just slightly less than 2 weeks at the time this first listing incident happened. and he's in charge of supervising the ballasting operations. He's the guy that is supposed to know everything there is to know about ballasting and to be able to do it better than anyone else. He's in charge of it. He relieves the guy who was doing his job during the middle of the oil supply operations, the fuel supply operations, and this is what happened.
The ballast control operator on duty at the time was relieved by the ship's master, Captain House, midway through the process. Captain House, for some reason, when attempting to pump out tank 14, assuming for balancing while fuel filled tank 12, instead switched its sea chest valve to the wide open position, the valve that opens tank 14's fill directly to the surrounding ocean water, filling it rapidly.
Yeah, so because you're adding the extra weight of the fuel, you want to pump the water out of the ballast tank to keep it balanced. So you're adding the fuel weight, and the captain opened the valves and basically flooded the ballast tank, making it even heavier on that side of the ship.
The 6-degree list was so concerning and happened so suddenly, much of the crew had started prepping at lifeboat stations.
All right, let's read through this incident, which was not reported immediately to the mobile office nor to the regulatory authorities, is worthy of note for several reasons. It illustrates the fact that although the master was deemed to be responsible for rig safety and for the ballast control operators, he had not been trained in the operation of the ballast control system. So dude is in charge of what keeps that rig afloat, but he has not been trained on how to operate the system. He had not been trained in the operation of the ballast control system. It also establishes that on the night of February 14th, the master on board the Oil Ranger did not understand the ballast control system, and the tool pusher, who is the number one guy on the ship, on the rig, knew that the master had no fucking clue how to operate the ballast control system. So the redundancy in the command structure has just failed as well. But so this first incident, and they all learned this, they all learned the captain did not know what the hell he was doing a week before when this particular first ballasting problem happened. So yeah, the guy who's in charge of keeping the thing afloat, who's in charge of the ballast control operations, had no idea what he was doing and proved that to everybody the week before when he flooded a ballast tank instead of clearing it out
directly to the surrounding ocean water, filling it rapidly.
Oops.
The 6-degree list was so concerning and happened so suddenly, much of the crew had started prepping at lifeboat stations. Senior ballast control operator Rathbun called from his bunk to resolve the situation, quickly realized the issue, took over for Captain House, and corrected it. This narrowly averted disaster raised red flags with Odeco Superintendent Jim Counts, who agreed with the Ocean Ranger's tool pusher, Kent Thompson, that Captain House was unfit for his position aboard the platform.
How does that make you feel? It's just been demonstrated, and everybody, all other 84 people on there agree that the master is not fit to be the master of the vessel. Really quickly here, Salty Buddha asks, when is the next stream? My next stream will be, I guess, Tuesday morning US, Tuesday night my time. Can you imagine? I can't imagine what that would be like to be on this massive structure with 50, 60-foot waves, raising and lowering your ship, causing ballast problems, knowing that the captain is unqualified, untrained for his position. And his position is to make sure you don't float. I mean, you do float, you don't sink. And then you're in this ridiculous weather situation. Ugh.
With Odeco Superintendent Jim Counts, who agreed with the Ocean Ranger's tool pusher, Kent Thompson, that Captain House was unfit for his position aboard the platform. Captain House agreeing as well, as he reportedly didn't even want to be there anyway. However, No parties would take action to replace him in the near future, further enforcing the impression that Odeco had been filling this position, and potentially others like it, with temporary figureheads only, to comply with U.S. Coast Guard regulations.
Brick and Mortar is suggesting that perhaps companies are being less than honest to be able to keep work and just to cut corners. Follow the money. That is all in situations like this, in disasters, in major accidents. Follow the money. You'll get to your answer.
At roughly 7 p.m. Sunday, February 14th, the Sedco 706 was hit by a massive wave, even larger than those already battering the oil field that day. At 70 to 80 feet high, this wave was high enough to even wash over the top of their helideck.
Did you the size of that wave? 80 feet high, and this hit one of the other platforms that was in the area. I mean, just look, you couldn't even see the people on this. This is how tall this thing is. This is assuming it's of a similar height to the Ocean Ranger. You're looking at 337 feet high. And the waves were high enough that it was washing over the deck of this oil rig. That would scare the shit out of you, I would imagine, if you're on that thing. And this is the interesting part. He'll address it here immediately, that they got hit by this 80-foot high wave, and they knew that wave was heading for the Ocean Ranger.
At 70 to 80 feet high, this wave was high enough to even wash over the top of their helideck, destroying a small shed on the platform and tearing away multiple pieces of equipment. It also caused damage to one of the Sedco's longitudinal beams underneath the platform, a major structural element, and thus the Sedco deballasted, raising their draft from 80 feet to 75 feet, and would ride out the storm. The Zapata Ugland, also hit by a similar wave at roughly the same time, was, quote, jarred severely, but did not sustain any considerable damage. At roughly 7:45 p.m., the Ocean Ranger was struck by a similarly large wave, but sustained what the crew perceived was only minor damage. The ballast control room on the Ranger, about 28 feet above the waterline in its current configuration, utilized 4 portholes, also known as port lights, for viewing outside conditions and, more importantly, the vessel's only visual cue as to its draft depth, the draft markings on each of the 4 corner columns.
Now, every boat, every ship, every oil platform will have these marks on the side, and that'll just, as he said, that'll tell you how deep your draft is, how far below the water you are. And of course, this is where the predictable thing happens. They have these portholes here, which are they're sealed windows, but they can be opened 28 feet above the water. You get hit by a 60, 70, 80-foot wave. This part.
Thank you, Millie, for stopping by. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day.
Is going to be underwater, which is why they're very, very heavily reinforced, awfully ridiculously thick glass, and major locking devices. But accidents happen.
This was essentially the operator's draft gauges, using a searchlight to illuminate the markings at night. Porthole number 4 had been shattered, imploded into the control room from the force of this monster wave, each porthole containing a deadlight cover for use during rough conditions. Closing and fastening these steel plates ensures portholes don't become an entry point for water if compromised. However, there were no standing orders, policies, or training in place for their use on the Ocean Ranger or by Odeco in general.
So there we go. We've been assured that there are safety measures, that there's these protocols. The guy said, "Oh, we monitor this. We make sure that everything is adequate," as he said. So to summarize, I know you just saw it, but just to summarize, you have the portholes and you have these gigantic steel covers that you can ratchet down to make sure that even if the glass window on the porthole breaks in a storm, the water doesn't come in. You seal off the windows with a giant cover. They have the covers. They were just never told to use them in a bad storm. That's what the fuck they're for. if there was ever a storm where you would want to make sure the covers on your portholes were locked in place, it would be this one. But as we were just told, the ship or the oil rig, the company, neither one of them had any protocol that said, hey, when the weather gets bad, close that. And sometimes you probably shouldn't need to be told to do things. You should probably go, hey, wow, it's really, really bad out there. We get some really, really bad waves crashing against this window. Perhaps we should shut the cover. But they didn't. It was open. The window shattered and floods the ballast control room with water. The ballast control room is full of electric parts that monitor and control the ballast. Electricity and electrical components don't play well with water, particularly seawater. But that's the situation they're in, where the mechanism to raise and lower the ship to keep it stable is now underwater.
By this time, and they were fully opened at the time of impact, only being closed after the damage was done, if at all.
Yeah, there we go. That's the there's a great saying in Korea. It's you close the barn door after the horses have escaped. That's kind of what happened. That's exactly what happened here. They closed the barn door after it escaped. Bad Weather Biker, thank you so much for the super chat. I'd be interested in your take on the Edmund Fitzgerald. I did a full video on the Edmund Fitzgerald. Was it 2 weeks ago? If you go back through my videos, you'll see you'll see the story that I did on the Edmund Fitzgerald. It's there. So yeah, go back. It's either 2 weeks ago. No, I was on vacation 2 weeks ago. I guess it was about a month ago. So go back a couple of Mondays ago into my video feeds, and there is the Edmund Fitzgerald video there. So thank you so much for bringing that to my attention, so I can mention it to other people. We've done other incidents in the past. We've watched some collision videos. So go back through my video list for the Maritime Monday videos, and if there's something that you'd like and see, please feel free to make comments. If there's something you don't see there and you want me to do, as I said, hit me up an email, thelegalvices@gmail.com, or Twitter @thelegalvices. And while you're here, we've got 200 people watching us right here at the moment and 147 likes. So let's feed the YouTube out. Let's try that again. Let's feed the YouTube algorithm gods. Hit that like button, please. I would deeply appreciate if you'd give me a like. Let YouTube know that you like the video. If you haven't done so, and if stuff like this is interesting to you, we do it every Monday. The rest of the days, we handle legal, or at least seemingly legal issues. Friday nights are paranormal, haunting, ghost things, conspiracy theories. We just do that for a little bit of fun. So if that's the stuff you're interested in, please hit the subscribe button. That would make me happy. It would make YouTube happy, and it would help the channel grow. And after we're done, at some point, come back and just leave a comment. YouTube looks at those for their engagement stats, so they know whether to send people my way, which I hope they do. So hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notification button, come back later and make a comment. And as you've seen, this is my second this is my second super chat grift for the evening. If there's a question you want to ask, if there's something you want to say, if you want to see your name in a pretty color, whatever the reason, if you want to just throw a super chat my way, I'm guaranteed to read the statement. If it's a question, I'll answer it. If it's something that I should address, I will address it. But in any event, it will be recognized, it will be read, and we will go. Done with the grift. Let's go back to the video. We've got the broken porthole window. They decided to close the valves, or at least try to close the porthole covers after it happened.
The Ocean Ranger, or Biodeco in general, by this time, and they were fully opened at the time of impact, only being closed after the damage was done, if at all. Regardless of the deadlight covers, investigators concluded these portholes should be able to withstand such forces, and the ballast control room's position, combined with these weak portholes, was a fatal flaw in the rig's design. Water from the massive wave blasted into the ballast control room via porthole.
Sweet Fly, thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day.
Hole 4 and all over the valve control panel. The control panel.
Notice the time. The times will come into play to show you the amount of time that elapsed and the amount of time people had to take action. We're at 7:45 p.m. And I don't know if you can hear the bulldog that the bulldogs have made their presence known, and they're hyperventilating and snoring under my desk. So the is the dogs, not me. Just let you know. So yeah, notice the timestamps as we go through the rest of this, so that you can see the amount of time they had to unfuck themselves, basically.
Control room via porthole 4 and all over the valve control panel. The control panel not made to be watertight. However, operators and their superiors showed little concern, with nearby supply ships overhearing the Ocean Ranger's two-way radio chatter. First from senior ballast operator Mr. Rathbun that the panel is wet, working on it and getting shocks off of it. Had to cover off. High-powered cables in here. And replies from tool pusher Kent Thompson. We'll get some guys in there and get it cleaned up. And don't get anybody injured or killed or damaged. Soon after, updates from Rathbun. Everything is fine and we're picking up glass, mopping up water, tidying up, cleaning up water and broken glass. Another voice a few moments later. All valves on the port side were opening by themselves. There are valves operating or closing or opening.
Odd how electronics seem to act up when you spill water on them, isn't it? So that's what they've got. Everything's fine except for the electronics the ballast control electronics are fucking around.
Everything is fine and we're picking up glass, mopping up water, tidying up, cleaning up water and broken glass. Another voice a few moments later. All valves on the port side were opening by themselves. There are valves operating or closing or opening.
That sounds like everything's just fine, doesn't it?
Witnesses overhearing these conversations on the supply ship radios were conflicted as to their exact times, nor did they realize their significance in the moment, as they were understandably preoccupied with the safety of their own vessels in the ongoing hurricane force conditions. Along with the control room's ship-based communications equipment being rendered inoperable, the reason they were now using two-way radios to communicate with other areas of the vessel. The ballast control panel had also been either fried due to water soaking it inside and out, or power was otherwise cut to some portions of it by personnel to prevent electrical hazard. Either way, it was inoperable, with only a few indicator lights left flashing, judging by the conversations overheard. The only way for personnel to get the impression that, quote, valves were opening and closing on their own would be via the indicator lights left flashing on the control board, back and forth from red to green and vice versa. At 8:45 p.m., while these events transpired, drilling foreman, second in command on the Ranger, and mobile representative Mr. Jack Jacobson had a 14-minute-long conversation via the satellite phone with mobile's shore-based superintendent, Mr. Graham. Amidst this conversation, Jacobson reported 50-foot-high seas and that a port light had been broken in ballast control, but that it was not causing any problems.
So here we have the guy on the oil rig calling his company and lying, flat out fucking lying. He knew that the electronics were fried. He knew that valves were opening and closing by their own. He knew that they were in trouble, and he lied to the company. The company guy lied to the company.
And that a port light had been broken in ballast control, but that it was not causing any problems, and all equipment was functioning normally.
Bullshit.
Further cementing into evidence the fact that no one on board the Ranger saw it as anything more than a minor inconvenience. At 9 p.m., the Ocean Ranger supply ship, the Seaforth Highlander, roughly 7 miles from the platform at this point, received a transmission from the rig inquiring as to the supply ship's status in the storm, but giving no signs that they were having issues in any way.
Exactly. Doing the Han Solo. Everything's fine. We're fine. How are you? That's pretty much what. Yeah, exactly.
Around this same time, the crew had decided to cut power and air supply completely to the console and possibly entire control room. When power and compressed air are lost in a system like this, Valves are forced closed for safety. With the pontoon valves closed and power cut to the console, the Ocean Ranger, in this state, while not ideal, is presumed by investigators.
Exactly, Alan. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
And those with knowledge in the industry to have been more than capable of riding out the storm.
So what happened?
At 11:30 p.m., Rick Flynn, Mobil Oil's shore-based radio operator, received a regularly expected weather update transmission from the Ocean Ranger's weather observer, reporting weather conditions and nothing else, nothing to indicate the vessel was experiencing anything of concern.
So, again, they're reporting, but they're not reporting. It is so bad out here. We've cut power and air to the entire thing. Our ballast tanks are locked, and we're just hoping to ride this bitch out. Just tell them what the weather is. Still rainy, still snowy, still windy, still got big waves. Talk to you in an hour.
However, for some unknown reason, shortly before 1 a.m., the crew on board the Ranger decided to restore air and power to the console. It's thought to start affecting repairs, either by causing inadvertent short circuits or otherwise tinkering with the controls. The inexperienced and untrained crew caused the valves in the bow pontoon tanks to open, immediately flooding the chambers until the vessel reached a 10 to 15 degree bow heavy list.
And this is where you're fucked. This is it. That right there is essentially what killed this oil rig. This is what killed the oil rig, the way I see it. Exactly the wrong thing happened. First of all, you have the captain who clearly doesn't know how to operate the ballasting system. He demonstrated that the week.
You didn't miss too much, Mary Jane. Just crew members fucking up and potentially saying goodbye to the oil rig.
Week before, when he caused the ship to list, when he took over for someone that apparently knew how to do their job. Now we've got this. They had everything locked down and we're waiting to write it out, but then somebody decided it was time to start doing the repairs. They turned things back on, and as they said, the untrained, inexperienced crew started fucking around with things, and it caused this list. Well, as Rocker Rockwell asks, at what degree are you fucked? It's not particularly the degree. In this situation, the problem isn't the degree at this point. The problem is this configuration right here. Again, because these tanks filled, the ship started listing this direction, and all of the water went down here. And he's going to explain right now why that is the problem. Why this it's the particular thing that fucked it up here.
The crew, too inexperienced to operate the ballast system and problem solve this now potentially fatal condition, even if the control system was working well enough to perform these actions. On top of this, the list was reaching a degree that some investigators concluded the bow tanks were reaching a point of no return, and even in ideal conditions, the pumps wouldn't have been strong enough to shift the water and right the vessel. As a last-ditch effort, a crewman suggested inserting a set of...
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna have to go back here. It must have been another report that I saw that dealt with this particular issue. So why this was a mistake and why this was, I see this as the fatal part, is that again, if the ship had been level, there would have been no problems pumping the excess water back out of the ballast tanks. But the problem was the direction it was listing is exactly the wrong direction. Just take this tank here, if you can see the small cursor here. The tanks will have a pump to pump out the water and force the air in. The pumps on this particular rig, on the Ocean Ranger, were on, for the purpose of this diagram, we'll say they're on the left side of each tank. They're not in the middle, they're not on the right side, they're on the left side of the tanks in this picture. So the ship is listing to the right, which means that the water is going to be sitting on this side of this side of the tanks. It's going to be on the right side of the tanks. So the pumps are going to actually be out of the water. So essentially, the pumps would not have done anything because the pumps would be out of the water because all the water is going to be on the right side and the pumps are on the left side of the tank when it's listing like that. Had it listed the other direction to the left of the picture, then that would have been okay. They still would have been able to pump. They should have been able to pump the water out, but that was one of the problems. Was identified. It must have been in another video I was watching, that the pumps were on the other side of the list.
Was working well enough to perform these actions. On top of this, the list.
This narrator doesn't sound like me. Wow. I can't talk. This narrator does not sound like me, Mary Jane. I don't think so.
This was reaching a degree that some investigators concluded the bow tanks were reaching a point of no return, and even in ideal conditions, the pumps wouldn't have been strong enough to shift the water and right the vessel. As a last-ditch effort, a crewman suggested inserting a set of brass actuating rods that had been left in the control room. These rods only used for testing while under construction and left on board by mistake. When inserted into the control panel solenoids, they served only as a way to override all other inputs and force each corresponding pontoon tank valve wide open, regardless of switch states.
He talks so zenny. Like, breathe in, breathe out, and oil rig sink.
Erroneous action was performed as none of the crew involved were experienced enough to protest the decision. With the storm still...
So, yeah. Is there a reason there are no pumps on both ends? I'm sure that because of reasons, but I mean, the idea is even if it's listing that way, you should be able to open the valve tanks on the other ends to bring the water in, which would balance the ship and lower you further in the water. But they were inexperienced and they didn't do that. They tried to do that here. This was the idea. They said they were going to open up all of the valves, and I guess that's what they were trying to do. They were trying just to fill the tanks. And if you fill all the tanks with all the water, then it should balance you back out in theory. But in this situation, it's already listing heavily. And if you throw open if you open up only the valves on the left side, you'd still keep these where they are and it should right you. But here they just threw open all of the valves, and that was their only option, was to override the system. I guess that's what they thought their only option was, to override the system and throw open all of the valves. And that just means more water collects on this side that's listing. And as they said in the video, nobody on this platform was experienced enough to go, oh no, don't do that. If you throw open everything, it's just going to collect more water on the side that's listing, and it's going to screw us faster. So that's it was some bad decisions. So yeah, instead of righting the ship by opening up the valves on the left side, which they couldn't do because nothing was operating, they just decided to throw them all open. And that's what this is what happened there.
Regardless of switch states, this erroneous action was performed as none of the crew involved were experienced enough to protest the decision. With the storm still raging outside and waves still massive, this list would lower the bow columns to a height in which the tallest waves could begin pouring their force into the anchor's wide-open chain locker, quickly filling the voids below, another fatal flaw in design and primary link in this chain of failures. At 1 a.m.
Yep, as he's saying, the holes where the anchors go out. The waves are starting to drive the water into the anchor chain holes, basically, which is filling it up with water.
After attempting to call Mobil Oil's shore-based Mr. Graham at his home in St. John's to declare an emergency, drilling foreman Jack Jacobson was unable to reach him due to atmospheric interference. His call would be relayed via another mobile onshore rep, Rick Flynn, via satellite.
Sir, mobile radio calling? Yeah. Got an emergency on the Ocean Ranger? Yeah. Just a second. Ocean Ranger, Jack, are you there? Can you give us anything else on it right now? We're listening badly, and we need to get the people off the rig and the bodies. We may not be able to hold the rig, and the rig might be going over.
The rig
Why
might
the
be
initial
going
distress
over.
call was made only via private sat phone and only to colleagues, rather than 24-hour monitored distress frequencies that would go out to all ships and authorities within range, no one will ever know.
No Mayday was sent out to the Coast Guard. No messages were sent out to naval control systems in the area. Nobody called the fucking police. 200 miles away. It was a private phone call between the ship and the company, telling them we're going over. We're listing badly. We need to get off this thing. Keep it internal. Keep it quiet. Don't let the authorities know that there's going to be a gigantic fucking oil platform that's going to be sinking here.
5 minutes later, at 1:05 a.m., the Ranger's standby and supply ship, Seaforth Highlander, now approximately 8 miles away, received a transmission from the Ranger requesting it come to a close standby. The Highlander, still unaware of any serious situation, asked what the problem was, the responding voice seeming reluctant. I am requesting to tell you by the mobile foreman that we are listing badly. At 1:09 a.m., a distress telex message, similar to a text message, was received by a Marisat operator in Connecticut, Marisat being the satellite phone and telex system these companies were using in the area. This message, since it seemed to be one of distress, was relayed immediately to the...
telex is the precursor to the fax machine. It's not like a text message. It's like sending a fax. I don't know if any of you have ever dealt with telex machines, but they're these monstrous pieces of equipment. So this was the distress message that was relayed. Are experiencing a severe list, unable to correct problem, notifying you PF. And it actually cost you money per character to send telexes, so that's why you drop a lot of vowels and things. you come up with your own little shorthand system. You PF. I have no idea what PF is. You problem, please. We are the Odeco Ocean Ranger, KRTB, located 43 there's location, and are experiencing a severe list of about 10 to 15 degrees and are in the middle of severe storm at the time, 12 degrees and progressing. Request assistance ASAP. We are an offshore drilling platform. We will stand by as long as possible. Winds at this time are approximately from the west at approximately 75 knots. Rig is a semi-submersible build and is listing severely 12 to 15 degrees to the port side. General info, we check that all available workboats in the immediate area are coming to our assistance. There are 2 other semi-submersibles in the area and will do all possible to assist.
The U.S. Coast Guard anyhow. However, one of the telex system these companies were using in the area. This message, since it seemed to be one of distress, was relayed immediately to the U.S. Coast Guard anyhow. However, from the Royal Commission report, little warning was given to the mobile oil shore base. In fact, when the telex went out for help at 1:09 a.m., it was not in a proper format to depict the urgency of the situation, since the word Mayday was not used. The telex, which had no addressee, went out of necessity to the Marisat operator in Connecticut, who, after checking with the Ocean Ranger, directed it to the U.S. Coast Guard in New York, who later phoned it to RCC Halifax. Time would have been saved if the telex had been addressed to RCC Halifax.
Yeah, how messed up is that? So this was in the 70s. No, it was 1982. So close to the 70s. But I mean, how messed up is that? They don't say Mayday. They say we're listing. We can't correct the problem. We're in danger. No Mayday. It's not addressed to anybody. It just goes out into the main I guess we'd call them server today, the main telex server, and they go, I'll send it to New York. New York has to call Halifax and go, oh, hey, you guys might want to be interested in this. Dumbasses.
The Joint Rescue Coordination Center in Halifax.
Well, okay, so Mary Jane, why didn't they say Mayday? Well, with the shit they've been pulling, I'm not surprised they didn't say Mayday. And plus, I guess they were like half panicking when they finally figured out that something was going wrong, so they just totally forgot about everything. I don't know. There's too many uh variables.
1 minute later, Ocean Ranger radio operator Ken Blackmore contacted Mobil's shore-based operator Rick Flynn once again and requested Flynn transmit a Mayday call on behalf of the Ocean Ranger. By 1:22 a.m., the oil rig Sedco 706 and Zapata Ugland ordered their supply vessels, the Bolton Tor, 15 miles away, and Norder Tor, 20 miles away, to proceed to the Ranger and assist. The final transmission from the Ocean Ranger. At 1:30 a.m., radio operator Ken Blackmore again phones Mobil Oil's shore offices, informs them the crew is going to lifeboat stations, and requests another Mayday be sent on their behalf. Under ideal conditions, rescue helicopters were now over an hour and a half away, and in the current weather, potentially.
So remember, they said the Mobil Oil people said we sent helicopters. The helicopters were an hour and a half away. And that's when they say we need to abandon ship. And I have no idea why you wouldn't send that last message to the Coast Guard or to the emergent, or to broadcast it out to the emergency channels, the radio channels. It was, again, a private conversation between the ship and the company that said, hey, we got to abandon ship.
Potentially unable to get airborne at all. The nearest vessel, the Ranger's own standby ship, the Seaforth Highlander, was steaming towards the platform, but still roughly 7 miles out, the weather not helping to speed up this process either. The list now exceeding 15 degrees, waves crashing over the bow, and the storm still at full force. It's presumed, based on the final call, the vessel was suddenly and hastily abandoned at 1:30 a.m. The circumstances of the abandonment just as mysterious as the lack of urgency in radio calls.
And remember, they first started to list at 7:45 p.m. This was 6 hours later. They had 6 hours to send out messages, to get instructions, and to unfuck themselves. They kept it in-house. They kept things internally, and every major decision they made was the wrong one. As the video title says, tragically inexperienced. And mind you, the captain who's in charge of the ballast control operations was notably unqualified for his position.
This degree of list was such that all lifeboats were either extremely hazardous or impossible to use. Mm-hmm. The bow lifeboat, with the bow essentially in the water, would have been either underwater or destroyed, unusable. The two stern lifeboats would have been clearly a dangerous, if not deadly, fall due to the Ocean Ranger's tilted condition, obvious even to the untrained attempting their use. And the life rafts on the upper deck determined to have been completely useless that night anyway, due to the ongoing weather conditions and water temperatures. Most importantly, though, the Ocean Ranger was not equipped with survival suits, absolutely crucial for evacuation in waters this cold and weather this deadly. Mist and spray from waves, freezing in midair, it was so frigid. Without the suits or protection from the water and elements, hypothermia setting in after just seconds.
This is one thing I don't understand. Why they didn't have these suits, these cold weather suits. It doesn't make sense.
But, Alan, the open sea is beautiful. What you mean, the open sea nonsense?
And I can't imagine there's not regulations that require everybody have one of these suits available. And what they are is, if you've ever watched like Deadliest Catch and someone falls overboard, or they do the training where they put on the giant thick suits like you just saw, that is to be protecting themselves from the weather. I mean, It's not going to keep you warm, but it's going to keep you from dying more slowly. Janice Driver, thank you so much for the super chat. Have you heard of the wreck of the Peter Airedale, 1906, Clatsop Beach, Oregon? Wreck remains are still at Fort Stevens, Oregon. No, I have not heard of it. And please, 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 things like this, send me an email to thelegalvices@gmail.com or a message to Twitter at thelegalvices. Send me these things so that I can remember them and I can look them up and see if it's something we can use here. That would be awesome if you would do that. I would deeply, deeply appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. They never saw the deadliest catch. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to save your life, but it's going to prolong it. Again, remember this is way up in northern Canada. They're in Newfoundland. They're up in Newfoundland, and it's February 15th. It's snowing, and as I think he said, the weather is so cold that the spray is freezing in midair. Without one of those suits, he said you're doomed in seconds, if not minutes. These are the suits they should have had. For some reason, they didn't have them, or they didn't have enough. The issue would be, how the heck do they get a helicopter out there in that weather? Yeah, that's what they were saying. It was difficult, if not impossible, to even get them there. But they got there in time to do the rescue, which we saw at the beginning with the news footage. But at that point, they saw a few bodies but couldn't get to them.
Mist and spray from waves, freezing in midair. It was so frigid. Without the suits or protection from the water and elements, hypothermia setting in after just seconds. While the Rangers' list was slowly worsening, it wasn't happening instantly, and the rig would end up floating in this state for nearly an hour and a half before ultimately capsizing completely. The apathetic attitudes by multiple crewmen in the face of crisis, even up to the final call about heading to lifeboat stations, yet as rescue efforts and investigations would prove, a final seemingly panic-induced sudden abandonment, with clothing later found ranging from light work clothes, orange work suits to pajamas, suggesting to investigators a sort of sudden panic-induced confusion amongst all on board. As the Seaforth Highlander approached, the Ocean Ranger, still floating in the same state, became visible at roughly half a mile away at about 2:11 a.m. However, several white light beacons could be seen off the rig's port beam some distance from the platform. The Highlander approached the area where these were emanating and found the lights were attached to life preservers floating on the surface. Life preservers that were empty.
Yeah, that is just so weird. Like I said, they're sending them, they're sending the messages without maydays. They're not reporting anything bad. They're just like, as we said here in chat a few minutes ago, it's the Han Solo thing. Everything's fine. We're fine. How are you? We just got some problems. You know, we've got some electrical issues. Nothing big is happening. Everything's under control. And then suddenly everybody panics and jumps off the ship. They're not in their life jackets. Some of them are in their pajamas. Nobody knows what triggered that. I mean, even when they said they're the last message where they said they're going to their lifeboats, which is like, all right, we're going to the lifeboats. Something caused this panic. I don't know what it was. Maybe there was a huge wave that washed them over. I don't know, but it's just weird.
The ship was now only about 1,200 feet from the Ocean Ranger, with it clearly in sight and still afloat, when Captain Duncan noticed a flare fired into the air off their starboard bow. It was approximately 2:14 a.m. at this time, and then at 2:21, a second flare from the same location, when the lifeboat it originated from, briefly came into view. In what authorities would later describe as miraculous, crewmen aboard the Ocean Ranger had been able to deploy one of its stern lifeboats successfully. Captain Duncan, however, noticed it was riding very low in the water, and at 1,200 feet away, he would maneuver the Seaforth Highlander to intercept the lifeboat. Once in range, 4 deckhands went out onto the aft deck and made preparations with what few tools they had available. The lifeboat, however, now clearly visible, showed signs of serious damage. It had holes on both sides of its hull, from stem to gunwale. The men aboard the Highlander could see survivors aboard vigorously bailing water and a man in the aft hatch steering, as the lifeboat was still somehow moving under its own power. The seas, though, were still not giving way, with swells exceeding 60 feet in height and winds still 60 to 70 knots. The spray freezing all around as the waves crashed all over the aft deck. Captain Duncan bravely maneuvering the Highlander stern first into the storm in order to approach the lifeboat without ramming it and let the lifeboat drift towards them. By 2:32 a.m., Duncan reported having the lifeboat alongside, finally positioned on their port side where they needed it in order to effect rescue. The deckhands now able to see lights and movement inside, and some men still bailing out water as it poured in. Despite their proximity, though, the deckhands and survivors were unable to hear each other yet through the seas, storm, and heaving vessels. A rope thrown to the man steering in the aft hatch was caught successfully, and he attached it securely to a handrail on the lifeboat's canopy, deckhand Jorgensen tying his end to the crash rail on the supply ship. A second rope with a life ring was successfully thrown and attached to the bow of the lifeboat by another survivor, then it too tied off on the supply ship. 8 to 10 of the 30-plus men aboard began emerging from the hatches, but stood on the lifeboat's port side gunwale. The men were still wearing their hard hats, and a handful wearing life preservers and heavier clothing, while others were very lightly clothed and still donned their work vests, all clothing completely unsuited to survival in such conditions. The lifeboat now began rolling towards its port side slowly, away from the supply ship, and within an instant capsized, tossing the men standing outside into the violent, freezing sea, and snapped the lines attached to the Seaforth Highlander. The deckhands leapt into action, throwing lines into the water and intended to launch a life raft towards the scattered survivors. Some life preserver beacons now lit, they were clearly visible, but the life raft's lines were frozen solid, and it took some time to cut free. By the time the raft reached them, they were completely immobilized by hypothermia, unable to board the raft or grab lines in the water well within their reach. Captain Duncan maneuvered again to within 50 or so feet of the capsized lifeboat, still attempting rescue if any remained on board, also keeping the other supply ships apprised of the situation of survivors in the water.
God, can you imagine that? You have several dozen people in this lifeboat. You've busted your ass. You've risked your own life to save them. You get them there. You hook it up. There's people living. There's live survivors. When they say 30 to 50 people in this, they're there. You get them. You can save them. You manage to somehow tie them off to your ship. You're going to rescue a large number of people. Then the waves come up, knock the people into the water. They freeze to death. Then you watch the lifeboat roll, the lines break, and it floats away. And you see them living. They've got the lines, they've got the rafts, they've got the rescue equipment near them. They can reach it, but they're in, and you just basically watch dozens of people die in front of you. I can't imagine how much that would suck. And just to watch, knowing that you had these people in your grasp, and then nature took them away from you, and you get to watch them die. And on the flip side of that, these poor fuckers that were in the lifeboat that busted their ass and kept this damaged and this damaged lifeboat that was taking on freezing cold water. They were bailing it out. They were keeping it under power. They were managing to survive. And then that last little fuck you from Mother Nature to roll the ship, break the lines, and toss you all into the ocean and flood your compartments. And seeing the rescue equipment right there in front of you and not be able to reach it because you're dying of hypothermia. When you're just looking at your rescuers, you're looking at the rescue equipment, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it to save yourself. This is a fucking horrible situation. I got nothing else. I was just thinking of the horror from both sides.
Supply ship Bolton Tor had arrived at approximately 2:45 a.m. and made visual contact with the Ocean Ranger, approaching the rig closely and inspecting with their searchlights, but there was no signs of life or other lifeboats. The second of the two stern lifeboats was no longer attached either. The Seaforth Highlander and Bolton Tor joining up to try and recover the wayward, capsized lifeboat, now roughly a mile and a half downwind from the stricken platform. The platform and lifeboat soon to be out of their sight as they gave chase. As the supply ship Nordertor was approaching the Ocean Ranger, its captain Allingham was watching the radar closely when at 3 a.m., radar contact with the rig was completely lost. Two small blips then appeared briefly at the rig's location, presumably the inverted pontoons, and disappeared soon thereafter.
So again, here's the timeline. 7:45 p.m. That's when the porthole shattered and the water fucked their ballast equipment in the ballast control room. And then what, 8? So that was 8 o'clock, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like, it was 5 hours later that they made their first distress call. 30 minutes later, for some reason, they abandoned the rig. Ugh. And then this horrific story of the support vessel coming alongside and watching these people die. And then the oil rig goes down at 3 a.m. Whew, Montana girl, thank you. Thank you so much for the super chat. I deeply appreciate that. Greed and ignorance cost these people their lives. Very sad. Happens altogether too often. I appreciate learning more about this event. Yeah. Lack of training, lack of qualifications, hiding that fact from authorities, not having the proper protocols in place, not having qualified people. It's all preventable. It is all completely preventable. Linda Marie, thank you very much. Appreciate your super chat as well. When they tell you not to panic, that's when you run. John Cusack in 2012. Yeah, that's. I mean, this is such a remarkable tragedy for everyone involved, literally. Winning reality is, this is what I was saying about the bottom of the ocean versus outer space. The ocean is a vicious, merciless beast of horrible ways to die. Yeah, we had this conversation on another stream yesterday. Would you rather be in the deepest part of the ocean or in outer space? There's no way I would be there's no way I would go to the bottom of the ocean. Pretty much for the same reason. There's very little that can kill you in space. There's a lot of things that can go wrong and a lot of things that can kill you in the ocean. So yeah.
Hello, Allie. Welcome in. Hope you're doing good.
Tarkina Meyer, thank you so much. Heartbreaking story, but interesting nonetheless. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's what we did. That's what we do here. There's these big things that happen that most people aren't aware of unless you're somehow directly tied to people on the ships or to the location where it happened. You don't hear a lot about it, or if it's like a giant thing like the BP oil spill or the Exxon Valdez oil spill, when it's something that affects the earth, you'll hear about it. Otherwise, these are just little disasters that you don't hear about, but they are significant. Anyway, thank you too for your super chats. I just kind of feel weird saying please like and subscribe at this point in the video, but please like and subscribe.
This information was relayed to Mobil Oil's shore offices at about 3:38 a.m., with the captains of the vessels assuming it would be forwarded on to search and rescue officials currently mobilizing. It would not end up being relayed until 7:35 a.m., however, leading rescue authorities in the meantime to operate under the assumption the rig was still upright and proceeding as rescue crews often do, as if survivors are still.
Yeah, how fucked up?
Yeah, how fucked up is it that you keep thinking the narrator is me, Melly? Melly? What? She's gone. Mary Jane. Oh my gosh. Let's watch the video.
What is that? Seriously. How fucked up is that? Let's rewind this and just consider how messed up this is. This oil rig goes down at 3 a.m. At 3 a.m. That's when the other ship watches this oil rig disappear.
This information was relayed to Mobil Oil's shore offices at about 3:38 a.m., with the captains of the vessels assuming it would be forwarded on to search and rescue officials.
Again, why wasn't this reported directly to the Coast Guard? Why wasn't this direct?
Hello, Bernice. Trying to sneak in here. Jeez. Who do you think you are? Trying to sneak in it. Hope you're doing good, Bernice. Welcome, welcome.
Directly broadcast on emergency channels? The only thing, and this is pure speculation, and I could be dead wrong, but things like this tell me that there may be an internal policy at that point that said, you don't report anything to anybody for any reason. You report it to us and we'll report it. That's the only thing I can think of, is that they were told not to do this, not to report to anybody under any circumstances. You go to the company and the company will decide what to do at that point. I could be completely wrong. And if I am, gee, sorry.
Nice. Hello, Angie. How are ya? Welcome, welcome.
Mobile. But yeah. Ugh. But so they assumed, these people say, hey, we just saw the oil rig go down. They assumed that the Coast Guard was being told. Well, surprise, the fucking company didn't report that. Think about that for a minute. The company did not report to the Coast Guard that their oil rig had completely sunk at that point. They deliberately did not tell the Coast Guard until 4 hours, 4.5 hours later. They didn't relay the fact that the oil rig went underwater for 4.5 hours after it happened.
Currently mobilizing.
So everybody else,
it
all
would
the
not
authorities
end up being
thought the
relayed
ship was
until
still
7:35 a.m., however.
alive.
Leading rescue authorities in the meantime to operate under the assumption the rig was still upright and proceeding as rescue crews often do, as if survivors are still aboard to be rescued.
Captain Duncan, Seaforth Highlander, via NTSB report. So this is in the National Transportation Safety Bureau report. What's the first damn line there? Can't see the first line. Get out of the way, title.
The 3 supply ships, by 3:40 a.m.,
we were
had
washing
joined
the
up to
bodies
continue the
away
rescue effort,
with the motion
coordinating
of the
their
ship.
search.
Oh,
the Arctic
fuck
left
me.
the Liverpool landing stage
From the Ocean Ranger's
good.
last position.
Phew. Thankfully, I didn't screw our position when I accidentally hit the wrong button there. All right. Yeah, so this is him talking about trying to save these people. Let's get this out of the way real quick before I forget. Brendan Lesko, thank you so much. Yeah, no mistakes, just happy little accidents, not seeing it here. Yeah, this is definitely not a Bob Ross moment. This is definitely mistakes and not a happy accident. So the Seaforth Highlander that was trying to save this cruise, literally the motion of the ship and the water being displaced by the ship was moving the people away from the ship. And for the rest of that morning, we kept searching that area for any live personnel which might have been found. We saw many bodies in the water, bodies which had obviously not come from the lifeboat, which capsized alongside us, but there were no signs of life at all. Nancy Joe Missazek, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Thank you so much for the super chat. This is so interesting and sad. Great job. Did you watch the movie Deepwater Horizon? If so, how accurate is the movie to actual events? I haven't seen that yet. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but from what I hear, parts of it are fairly accurate, and it took place in the same geographical area as this accident did. Yeah, where the movie Deepwater Horizon took place, that is this area where this oil rig went down. It's known for having ridiculously bad seas. And Shizzy Wisnot, thank you for yours. Imagine how a comp that supplies vaccine report. How a company that supplies vaccines report. Whatever. Thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah. Let's see. Back to the video here. This sucks.
Developing 48 are still aboard to be rescued. The 3 supply ships, by 3:40 a.m., had joined up to continue the rescue effort, coordinating their search, developing drift plots, and concentrating downwind from the Ocean Ranger's last position.
When they say they were developing drift plots, that's literally what they did back. I mean,
Jenny's MB. I've been watching this stream, listening to Baker covering Karen Reed, imagining it was your dad and him yelling bingo or sealing Dion. Lol, good times. Good times indeed.
It's probably all computerized now, but in the 80s, you would take a map of that geographical area and say, okay, this is where the accident happened. The winds, you calculate the winds, you calculate the tides, you calculate the currents, and you sort of plot where the people and bodies may have drifted. And then you search that drift area to see if you can find survivors.
However, recovering any victims they encountered in the water was proving nearly impossible in the current conditions. The first RCC rescue-capable helicopter wouldn't be able to take off until 4:15 a.m., and oil company helicopters arrived on scene at 4:35 a.m., but were not rescue-capable, attempting to aid the supply ships only as extra eyes. However, with the storm raging and ceilings as low as 300 to 600 feet, comprised of mixed rain and snow, the helicopters attempted to search, but visibility was near zero.
Apparently, I need to make a retraction. Deepwater Horizon was Gulf of Mexico off of Louisiana. There was another major incident that was made into a movie that happened in this Grand Banks area. I was confusing it with that, and I can't. If it wasn't the Deepwater Horizon, it was something else that I just can't remember. There was another disaster movie involving the ocean that took place in the Grand Banks area. I'll have to try to remember what it was. Perfect Storm. Yes. Okay. That's right. My bad. That was Perfect Storm. Got it. All right. Yeah. All right. Sorry about the confusion there. I can admit when I'm wrong, because I'm wrong quite a bit.
Over 70 feet, and anywhere below this altitude put them at grave risk due to comprised of mixed rain and snow. The helicopters attempted to search, but visibility was near zero over 70 feet, and anywhere below this altitude put them at grave risk due to massive waves still reaching these heights.
God, can you imagine that? It's literally you're in a helicopter in zero visibility, and zero visibility literally means you cannot see in front of your face. That's kind of one of the ways that seafarers and things will describe zero visibility is you can't see the front of the ship from the bridge. And so they have to go below 70 feet with a helicopter to have any visual of the water whatsoever. But you have waves that are 60, 70, and 80 feet. Can you imagine how fucked up that would be to be a rescue helicopter to come down close to the water and get taken out by a wave?
Below. Later in their search, as the supply ships had spread out to cover more area, at 7 a.m., the Norder Tour spotted a capsized lifeboat with a Seaforth Highlander life ring attached to it. After several unsuccessful attempts to recover it, Captain Allingham, on their final attempt, observed roughly 20 lifeless bodies still strapped inside.
That was the lifeboat.
Such a welcoming child. Connor leads the way. I try. And I almost threw this whole build away because I couldn't find the piece. But guess what? I already had the piece already on the freaking spot that it needs to be. So I was looking for a piece that I didn't need. I am okay now.
Several bodies suddenly floated out through a gash in the bow, one of them washing over the aft deck of the Nordertor, and was successfully recovered. Captain Allingham stating the lifeboat.
God, again, how fucked up is that? The waves are washing the bodies out of the lifeboat, and a wave crashes over your boat with a body in it. And the wave just kind of deposits the body on the deck of your ship. Gah. Brandon Lesko, thank you so much for the super chat. Number 4 most super chats in South Korea on Friday. I will admit I didn't know I could check such statistics. I just want to know, you guys were super generous last Friday. I just want to know who number 1, 2, and 3 are. But I did not know that I could check that. Cool. Stats. Legal Vices, please, says Kitty Cat, please do a video about C-Corp Power that went down about a year ago. Again, I will try to remember that. You've got my email address. Email me to give me a reminder. thelegalvices@gmail.com. Please, please, please give me the reminder. I will do that. Xcomer, as I said, I'm just going to keep pronouncing this triple Z. Xcomer, thank you so much. Will you take a look at Scandinavian Star 1990, 159 dead, or Estonia? The Estonia, the Estonia is on the list already. Please, again, email me these things. We'll get back to it. Thank you so much, Xcomer, for that. Deeply, deeply appreciated. Let's get back to this. Again, just listen to this. The waves washed a body over the railing onto this other ship's deck. That's how they recovered it.
Several bodies suddenly floated out through a gash in the bow, one of them washing over the aft deck of the Nordertor, and was successfully recovered. Captain Allingham stating the lifeboat eventually disappeared into the waves and most likely sank. This would be the first of only 22 victims eventually recovered from the Ocean Ranger, with all 84 souls aboard lost. The rig, however, wasn't done taking lives. The Ocean Ranger sank, inverted, into 260 feet of water, crushing the oil derrick tower in the process. Keep in mind, the information of how these events transpired and all the details that unfolded was only pieced together after a years-long investigation by multiple agencies: Canada's Royal Commission, the NTSB, the U.S. Coast Guard, and the nearby areas in Newfoundland devastated, with Odeco and their legal team pushing back all along the way. On that same morning, Monday, February 15th, 1982, the storm still raging, many search and rescue resources suddenly had to be diverted, as the Mechanique Terezov, a roll-on roll-off general cargo vessel of Soviet flag, was stricken in the nearby area by the same storm and sank at about 5 a.m. with 32 souls lost. With only 100 feet of clearance between the bottom of the pontoons and water's surface now, the sunken Ocean Ranger was considered a shipping hazard, and the decision was made to relocate it further out, deeper at sea. 2 divers prepping the pontoons to be floated with cutting and welding tools were killed in a sudden explosion, and a week later, 1 more diver was killed reportedly from an object mistakenly dropped at the surface above. Eventually, the platform would be floated, towed, and buried further out at sea successfully. This disaster was down to a number of factors, both large and small, like severe weather, breakdown in chain of command, the Ocean Ranger's flaws in design, like chain lockers, portholes, and other aspects of the ballast control room, lack of training and safety by oil rig owners and contractors, lack of specific regulation in an industry that was overtly taking advantage of inattentive governments, an industry-wide culture of being above the law, the list goes on. And many changes in safety, training, and methods would come about as a result of this monumental tragedy. A very poignant memorial was unveiled in the city of St. John's in July of 1985.
That's a long fucking list. All preventable.
The Immortal supporters on Patreon get 100% ad-free access to all of these videos and help keep the channel going. And a special
Let him
thank
do
you
his
goes
grift
out
here.
today to those top-tier supporters, Alex, Jenny, Jeremy, Kat, and Nathan. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and take care.
That's the Ocean Ranger. Not a lot to say again. These disasters, these shipping disasters, that's why they're disasters. They don't have happy endings. We already did that. Sorry again. Nancy, you got a twofer. Yeah, wow. And again, the takeaway from this, like the takeaway from a lot of these incidents, is human error, human hubris, money. If you watch the Edmund Fitzgerald, you would see. I mean, that is one of the that's one of the exceptions where it was just a shitty situation. It was just a bad situation, and everybody did the absolute best they could to keep the Edmund Fitzgerald alive. But this, the bridge collision we did several weeks ago, they're human error. They're all avoidable if you follow procedures, if you do things correctly. It's just like having qualified people that know how to do their jobs, to not have this culture of let's and the thing, that's one thing that really pisses me off, is they were saying that the company was not forthcoming with this information. They had to have multiple agencies investigate for multiple years, and I said the company was pushing back the entire time. The company is trying to keep the details of their internal failings quiet. Yeah, well, shit. You know, that's it. This is what I deal with. This is my profession. And you see that happen when you're talking to the people, and you know that you know what's going on. Vicky T says here that I was curious and I watched about the Saywell ferry. I cried a lot. There are no words. Yeah, and also Brick and Mortar. He has two of the best videos I've seen about the Saywell sinking. And again, that's such a huge tragedy in here that I'm in Korea that I'm not touching that ferry disaster.
I guess I'll be watching the Saywell Ferry coverage that they did. Yeah, his mustache does look better. That is very true. Very true. And you guys are horrible. Talking about disasters here, and you guys are talking about happy endings. Jeez.
In any way on my channel, other than to say go watch Brick and Mortar's two videos on the Saywell ferry. It's yeah. And again, that was 100% human error and company fuckery. As with so many of these disasters, we had the Costa Concordia. Again, unqualified people doing stupid shit. It leads to these disasters, and the people that walk away at the end of the day with the money are lawyers that deal with it. You know, and the companies, they pay their fines, whatever the fines are, that are they're pennies on the dollar. It's you find a company like Exxon or Mobil, $1 billion. They probably make that in a matter of hours. You know. Well, anyway, that's the end of the story. Thank you for those of you that stuck here to the end of the video. I've got a couple more minutes. We can just we'll give you a little bit of an update on what's going to be happening this week. And I just got a message from YouTube saying now would be a good time to insert ads. Creators earn more money inserting ads, and the more viewers are watching. Give it a try. Nope. When you watch the replays, if you don't have premium that cuts out the ads, YouTube is in control of adding the ads wherever they put them and however many they put. I do not manually put ads into my video. That's up to them. I don't want to be that guy. So yeah. How are we doing here? We've got 208 people concurrently viewing. 227 likes. Thank you so much for the likes. Like I said, this is our slow day. It's not a bad day. It's a slow day for viewers because it is kind of a niche thing that we do here on Mondays. We will be returning to our regularly scheduled stuff tomorrow. Tomorrow evening for me, Tuesday morning for those of you in the US. And I mentioned what I was going to be doing a couple of videos ago, but I've had to sort of tweak this week's schedule due to an unforeseen occurrence. Tomorrow, Tuesday's stream will be the Senate committee hearings on censorship in music that took place in 85, was it? With Tipper Gore and Al Gore basically advocating for censorship in music. They had 3 witnesses. We'll be watching the testimony of all 3 of the witnesses at the Senate hearings, which was Frank Zappa, Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, and John Denver. We'll be watching to see what they have to say about forced and voluntary censorship and warning labels on music. Brian K, thank you so much for the super sticker. Behind the scenes. That's what we do here. We get behind the scenes of these incidents. Deeply appreciate the sticker. Thank you so much. So tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll be doing the Senate hearings on censorship in music that took place way back in the day. Wednesday, I will not have a live stream. I have a guest coming from the States that I haven't seen in 10 years. So we'll be hanging out that evening, and they'll be staying at my house. So I won't be interrupting our little reunion to do a live stream. So what I'll be doing on Wednesday, if I have enough time between now and then, what I usually do when I have time, when I need to do filler, I'll be opening one of my bottles of whiskey that isn't opened, and I'll just be doing a random tasting of a good whiskey. I'm thinking that I'm going to be doing my Port Charlotte heavily peated whiskey from Bruichladdich. Great. I may be doing that for a tasting. So that Wednesday will just be a video, short, maybe 10-minute video of me doing the whiskey tasting. And something I've been thinking about, which I don't know if any of you would have any interest whatsoever, is doing a whiskey tasting stream. Which I don't know if I would want to do it as a stream or just a standalone video, or maybe both, but sort of how to taste whiskey, things like that, and then reviewing 1 or 2 whiskeys. That's just kind of something that's going around in my head. But back to the schedule. Tuesday morning US, Tuesday night Korea time will be the Senate hearings on censorship in music. Wednesday will be probably a whiskey tasting video. Thursday, we'll be back to, we'll do another round of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard unsealed document comments. Friday will be Fair and Balanced will be on. Fair and Balanced will be on my stream, and we'll be doing more conspiracy, Bigfoot, UFO, paranormal stuff. And then next Monday will be the day that I've been waiting for forever. let me make sure it is Monday. Yes, Monday morning U.S. time, the 22nd. Monday evening Korea time will be the legendary Drexel. Totally Drexcellent. Drex will be on my stream to do my personal first Drex stream. We'll be having some fun that night. Drex is not for everybody. Drex is incredibly red-pilled and based. We're in for a wild ride for the Drex stream. Again, it's not for everybody. If you don't know Drex, pop in. If he's not your thing, feel free to pull the ripcord and come back on the following day, on Tuesday. So yeah, there will be no Maritime Monday stream next week because I've cleared my schedule to make way for Drex. Drex gets priority over anything else that happens on this stream. So yeah, enjoy that. If that's your thing, we're going to be talking about manosphere issues. We're going to be talking about the based life, the unbreaded life. And it will probably be an intense conversation. If it's not your thing, come back on Tuesday. Please don't unsubscribe just because you don't like one day of one topic I talk about. We mix it up here a lot. We give our platforms. We have our discussions. We respect each other's opinions. You can have different opinions. You might not like everything I talk about every day. I probably wouldn't like some of the stuff you talk about every day, but you're still my friend, and I hope you're still my friend. And literally, I have to put out this warning for Drex. Drex is intense. I love the Drex. Drex is the mayor of MGTOwn, says Memento Mori. Yeah, we'll get into Drex. A week from Monday, put that on your calendar, Drex. Disclaimer. Diamonds and Henna, disclaimer, you won't like Drex. Oh, I think you'll like Drex. Drex is awesome, as Tori McGowan said. Rutro says 3, gird your loins, it's going to be a Drex stream. See, if you don't know Drex, this is the response that Drex gets, and he is not even here. So yeah. I'm sure we'll be hearing about the Baldo. It's already on the map to talk about the Get That Butt video. We'll find, if you've been seeing the Get That Butt meme or comments going around for a while, we'll be getting into the history.
I don't even want to know what that video entails.
History of that particular meme. Alrighty then. That's enough about the Drex stream. Drex is coming up next Monday. Tarkina Meyer, whiskey and food pairing. We did one of those. It was a blast. Yeah, that's some good thing. I'll definitely be having some food. Matter of fact, I got to go shopping for food right now. It's a holiday here in Korea. It's Independence Day. So I've got the day off. I'm going to be enjoying my afternoon. Going to go shopping. Then I pack up and go hit the beach. Got the beach wear going. And I'll be enjoying my evening. So thank you so much for that super chat. And we got Magician Sapphire. Cool, Nick. Congratulations, Legal Vices. You're about to get your Drex cherry popped. Yeah, well, we've been talking and chatting, and yeah, can't wait. It's gonna be fun. Thank you so much for the super chat, Magician Sapphire. Steph, bring on the Drex at Legal Vices. Thank you again, Steph. Always appreciated. We are gonna bring on the Drex. Sunshinery, hey, sub mod, happy Korea Day, and finish cleaning sometime soon. How do you know I didn't? You can't. Okay. Yep. That's we mentioned that on the other stream I was on in the middle of my afternoon yesterday. I was like, I'm cleaning my house. Someone wanted me to come on their stream, and I'm like, clean the house or sit in front of a computer and talk to people. So yeah, I didn't get a lot of cleaning done. D-Ways, bye, Jeff. Enjoy. Yeah, I will. So again, thank you, everybody. You guys are great. Come on back on Tuesday so we can do the Senate hearings. Love you, mods. Love you, chat. We are the best chat on earth. Hands down. Again, on your way out the door, please hit that like button if you haven't already done so. It would be deeply, deeply appreciate it and make me a happy little camper. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. We're going to be hitting it hard for the foreseeable future. We're here. Come and join, and hit the notification button, and come back a little bit later and just drop a miscellaneous comment to engage with the creator, to make YouTube happy, make me happy. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. We'll see you on Tuesday. You guys make me laugh so much. All right, everybody. Take care. Until we meet again, as always, don't forget to enjoy your legal vices. I'm out.
Okay, that was another episode of Maritime Monday. Hello, Tamra. A little late, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Glad you made it at least. Loop, move stuff around. La 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 la. Waiting for the beginning. Gotcha. Bernice, I'll be thinking about your little fellow. Everything goes well. Yeah. Let's see. This is awesome playing Dad's videos. Oh yeah. By popular demand. Let me fix my microphone stuff real quick. Put that back up to 6 where it always was. Closed. There you go. Connor, are you on second or third shift now? I'm on third shift. Well, okay, so the company that I work for does it weird. We don't have a second shift. It's only first and third. So so day shift is 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. and night shift is 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. There is no swing shift. So, but I'm on night shift for this week as well as last week. I don't know if I'm going to be on night shift or day shift next week. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. 12 hours too long. Eh, that's not horrible. Exactly. Exactly. It's not too horrible. So your company is only playing with the odds? Yep. Hope you get a lot of vacation days at least. I used all my vacation days when I went to Korea. I used all of my vacation days, my regular pay time off, and my bonus hours for the week, 2 weeks that I was in Korea. So I won't have those again till next year. Ain't that crazy? I assume I won't have it till next year. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see once I hit my 1 year mark over there. See if they'll give it to me. But usually, um, vacation days aren't a lot. I think it's uh I think it's 1 week of vacation we get. Yeah, that sounds right. But it's whatever. It's whatever. Okay, so let me put this over here. Right, France? I'm not going to France. But here's the progress so far of City of Gondor. Slowly getting its shape. Yeah. Had a little moment where I almost chucked this whole thing across the room, but everything's okay. Everything worked out. Oh. Stop. I'm not putting it in the friggin' water. Um, Minas Tirith, Gondor is the country, is it not? Well, it says, it just says City of Gondor. And same as the box, I threw the box away, but it just says City of Gondor. So I'm just calling it the City of Gondor. Let's see. Let's see who I can send you to. Do, 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 do. Customize as shown. Let's bring you closer to me so I can see my freaking thing better. To Danny? Okay. Danny on Direct is doing Karen Reed retrial 6. Has your mom sent Tara Barador yet? Yeah, she sent me the box and the unopened bags of Legos. She hasn't sent me the actual tower, so I said, oh well, too bad, so sad. So maybe in the next few paychecks, I might buy myself one. And yeah. So as Lego goes, this is my last Lego. This is the last Lego I have. So after that, uh, I guess I'm forced to do crocheting. uh, every day at work, do something to make someone happy or smile, whatever that says. I will. I'll go to work in about a little over 4 hours. So I still got some time left. Okay. But thank you everyone for joining me in this Maritime Monday and Lego build stream. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Make sure on your way out to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're already subscribed, please double check that you are still subscribed to the channel because YouTube can be asshole and kick people out. But as always, I hope everyone has a beautiful morning, day, evening again. Stay awesome. Stay beautiful. I love you guys. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.
Well, that's all for this stream, but it's been so sweet. Thanks for hanging with us, it's been a treat. We'll keep it warm, keep it real, take it slow. Catch you next time when the vibes are ready to flow. If you enjoyed the ride, give us a like, subscribe for the warmth, come back whenever you like. Until then, take it easy, don't rush, don't hurry. I'll be here waiting, no need to worry. Vice, baby, always by your side. Stay cozy, stay calm, let the good times ride. Peace for now, but we'll meet again. Take care, my friend, until then.